What I've planned today is an emotionally intelligent way to make sense of behaviour. It's chapter 8 from my new book, Teaching Values of Being Human. Oh, to get the best from this presentation, teachers, generate a class list. And SSOs and ESOs, I'd like you to have a list of the students you regularly work with. Also grab a blue and red coloured pencil. As well, I'll ask you to split into groups later, and each group will require a sheet of butcher's paper and a bold texter. The essence of this chapter is something I've raised before and will never let go. It's viewing our children's behaviour through our soft eyes and our warm hearts. This takes our thinking to a truly human level. Our soft eyes and warm hearts help us to create a mindset where we can observe, listen, absorb, participate, and hypothesize about what the behaviour is expressing. In the end, every behaviour expresses a need that must be and can be met humanely. We now understand misbehaviour is an important part of normative development. First, this means that most children at every stage of development will display problematic behaviours. Despite the difficulty it may present, it is part of the human condition. Secondly, behavioural problems, hiccups, impasses, gaffes and glitches are far more likely to be temporary in nature. As well, we now understand that 10% of children aged 4 to 17 years who display the trickier behaviours need to be managed far more astutely than using the traditional toolkit of tell-offs, fights, emotional isolation, suspensions, and tearing away at another's dignity. Many of us are beginning to understand why we must shift our thinking to connection, rather than relying on the damaging forces of dominance, force, and exclusion. I dislike the term misbehaviour because it's a negative, one-dimensional concept. It does not steer us to think about what prompted the behaviour in the first place. It does not invite us to examine the environment and how we might rework it and remove or minimise possible stressors. It does not invite us to examine the quality of relationship and consider whether bringing a young person closer to us might make the difference. It's a polarising concept that invites punishment and control without understanding. It encourages us to view behaviour as an act that is deliberately chosen. So I use the word misbehaviour in the way you see on screen. I put quotes around the miss bit to highlight that it's more like a misfire or a hiccup. It's a misguided emotional impasse. It's just like a car backfire. The truth is, most kids don't wake up each morning planning to wreck our day. A lot of misguided behaviour is just that. It's misguided. It's the result of inexperience, childish exuberance, adolescent impulsivity, or the urge to impress or appeal to peers. And without offering our security and teaching new skills to reshape this misfire, the misbehaviour wires up neurologically and deepens. Now to touch on deeper complexities. Ask educators with a little history in schools about young people today. They, along with the research, will tell you young people's emotional needs and behaviours have become more complex, and they're working with these complexities far earlier than ever before. They'll explain they teach some great students from grounded families, but there's an increasing number of kids who've rarely heard no from their parents and don't take no at all well from educators. These young people have experienced a passive parenting style with too few boundaries, rubbery boundaries, and negotiable boundaries in a bid to keep them happy and make life easier. There are more young people than ever before who now move between homes and parents due to separations and divorce. Children become conflicted, confused, and traumatised. But it's not the separation or divorce which shortchanges them. It's the continuing antagonism between parents that eats away at them. Children today must deal with single-parent poverty, domestic anger and violence, step-parents and step-siblings in blended families, and shared spaces and belongings that are too small and too scarce. Teachers also worry about a growing disconnect between children's engagement in learning, personal responsibility, and keeping a balance between a technology-driven world and a real one. Our children face distinct and complex challenges, and we must recognise this. We need to be with them on this. As well, we appear to be in the grips of an anxiety epidemic for kids, and COVID hasn't helped. More and more children are displaying vulnerabilities to developing anxiety difficulties. Currently, 10% of children aged 6 to 11 now meet the criteria for diagnosable anxiety in Australia, and thousands more suffer from anxiety as a direct response to what is happening in their lives. Boys are slightly more likely to experience mental health problems than girls. As well, there is a higher prevalence of child and adolescent mental health problems among those living in low-income, step-blended and sole-parent families. Yet despite so many children needing support, only 1 in 4 with mental health issues ever receive professional care in Australia. Educators in schools, people just like you, are most frequently the first point of contact for young people with wellbeing difficulties. We never imagined that through necessity it would fall to us, teachers in classrooms, to promote organisations such as these as another line of defence for our children. We never imagined these services would not be able to meet the needs of our children due to funding limitations. Be sure you tell your students to keep trying to call, because they are likely not to have their first or second calls answered. How sad. Despite this crushing reality, many of us feel ill-equipped to have personal conversations with young people about their well-being. We think, but I wasn't trained to do this. I was trained to teach. That's what I signed up for. But we blinked and the world changed. The truth of the matter is that 3 in 4 Australian children must rely on conversations with kind teachers in schools. And when a student signals they want to talk to you, they are validating the safety within the relationship you've built together. They can already see your soft eyes and your warm heart. A conversation does not mean you have to have all the answers. More often, just being there for them so they can talk and you can listen can make a world of difference. Being a kind, grounded, and connected adult is far more important than expertise in many cases. Equally, it's perfectly acceptable to help connect them to a mental health professional when you know their needs are beyond the support you can offer. The activity we're about to do demonstrates why changing another's behaviour is a long and windy road. So may I ask how you're doing in the quest to change a few of your own behaviours? Have you picked up your exercise regime? and are now exercising more consistently? Are you eating more healthily? Drinking less alcohol? Have you lost the weight you wanted to? Have you finally got a better balance between work, family, friends and fun? Are you spending less and saving a little more? Have you pulled back on your credit card debt? Do you have your tax return in? Changing our own behaviour is hard. Changing someone else's behaviour, well, that's doubly hard. It's doable when it's done well, but it must be done well, my dear friends. Let me explain with this activity. Without understanding the human condition around behaviour, little or no change can be made. To get an idea of how deeply ingrained habits become, let's try this activity. So copy me. Cross your arms and lay them across your chest. Uncross them and give them a bit of a shake. Cross them again. Uncross, give them a bit of a shake. And we'll cross them one last time. Now you probably realise that you crossed your arms the same way every time. One arm consistently went on top of the other arm, with hands tucked away neatly to the side. Let's call this the old way. How does the old way feel? Well, most people say it feels comfortable, it's natural, it's easy, it's me, it's what I've always done, it's what I do, it works for me. Let's change this old habit, this old way, to a brand new behaviour. Because I know, as your dad or as your teacher, that this new behaviour will serve you much better in the future. Let's have a go at the new behaviour or the new way. This time, I want you to switch your arm positions so that the one that was on the bottom is now on the top. Oh, gee, you struggled with that a bit. Break your arms apart, give them a shake, try it again the new way. How does it feel? Most usually answer it feels odd, it's awkward, it's strange, it's weird, it's uncomfortable, because it's not your old, embedded, comfortable behaviour. It's not the old way that you've done things. The lure to going back to the old way is powerful, but you all can do the new way. So from now on, I want you to do the new way of crossing your arms, because it will best serve you in the future. Now, do you think you will stick to it? No, you won't. Are you more likely to stick to it and develop a new behaviour, a new skill, if I keep criticising you, calling you out, nagging you, humiliating you in front of others and picking you up every time you get it wrong? No, you won't. I'll annoy you and I'll probably destroy our relationship. Are you more likely to stick to it if we try to get on the same page together? Try to work on it together, being positive, optimistic, and celebrate little steps forward along the way. In other words, if we set up an approach where we support each other and prompt one another to use the new language to help see more of this new behaviour. I'll stop because you've got the idea. Okay, welcome to the basics around behaviour. Let's go to the ABCs of behaviour. They are the antecedents, the behaviour itself, the consequences of the behaviour. As I work through these, please keep one of your own children or a student you work with in the forefront of your mind. Let's make this exercise real by making it all about them. Feel free to pick up a pen or pencil and jot down thoughts as they pop up. Okay, let's begin with the antecedents. When does this difficult behaviour usually start? What triggers it? Have you noticed a pattern? What part do peers, friends, or enemies play? Who are they? Where is the tricky behaviour more noticeable? When is it more noticeable? Is there a lesson or a time of the day where it's more prevalent? Are there pervasive influences in this student's life that might quietly maintain the tricky behaviour? Do you know what's happening at home? The behaviour. What exactly is the behaviour? Name it. Next, describe the behaviour. Use a selection of adjectives to build a word picture around what you see. Do not use descriptors such as vicious or spiteful, malicious or violent, because they're emotionally loaded with a strong negative bias that do no good. Instead, use the descriptors that describe the behaviour, exactly what you see. Is the troubling behaviour becoming more or less frequent? How does this person show their distress? Is it flight, fight, or freeze? Have you started to record the frequency of the behaviour, where it happens, and its intensity? By doing so, you can collect hard data instead of having to rely on your memory, which is prone to recalling the hiccups and disasters rather than the small wins. What does this young person say? Record their phrases and words. What do they do that most worries you? How much of this behaviour should matter? Could some of it be tactically ignored? Which bits? Might a clever change to your routine or a creative circuit breaker minimise the problem? Is the behaviour consistent with a diagnosable disorder, deficit, disability, or with trauma? What are your thoughts? The consequences. What usually happens following the behaviour? Is the student's calm down time improving? Do they understand the impact they're having on others? What is their response when they listen to others who've been affected? Do they show remorse? Is it genuine? Can they show remorse? What approaches have had some success? Next, let's hypothesize. Let's create a few possibilities about why this behaviour is happening. To do this, we use our experience and relationship with this young person. We also use our best observational skills and the input of others we trust. We ask these questions. Name the main drivers behind this person's behaviour. What do you think this person is seeking? Is it attention? Is it power? Revenge? Or are they responding to a deep sense of inadequacy or hopelessness? Or are there combinations of these? What might this child be trying to get to or avoid? What tells you this? What is the quality of the child's relationship with you? What is the quality of the child's relationship with their learning? What is the quality of the child's relationship with the other staff member in question? What is the quality of the child's relationship with other children or their siblings? Is this playing a role? Is the environment genuinely comfortable, safe, and functional for this young person? That's right. The environment you've created might be right for most, but for this child, it may be too overwhelming, too exposing, too competitive. Back in the 1960s, the individual psychologists Adler and Dreykus took us up close and personal about behaviour and how to work with it more effectively. It's their work that I want to explore a little with you. They propose that all behaviour has a purpose, that mostly it's not random. Mostly it's goal-directed. It aims at fulfilling a perceived need. It's about getting at, to, or away from something or someone. They demonstrated what the research is telling us today. That is, any improvement in a student's behaviour is linked to two essentials. Firstly, a strengthening of relationship between peers and with teachers. Secondly, learning new skills so they can function more effectively in the problematic environments. Adler and Drakis developed a framework called the Ladder of Discouragement. I'd like to take a few moments to explain it to you. It's the pathway that all human beings take to find social recognition or to feel as though they belong. In a perfect world, we'd all be content to live our lives on the bottom rung of the ladder. And why not? Here, we receive strong social recognition, acceptance, and opportunities to feel capable and worthy. As you can see, each rung on the ladder represents a deeper level of despair and is reflected by a deeper level of difficult behaviour. Discouraged people climb up the ladder rung by rung until their faulty logic lets them believe they've either gained status, kept face with those who matter. When recognition, acceptance and opportunities to feel capable are not available to human beings, we ramp up behaviours usually seen as negative to find ways to be noticed, to connect or to reconnect. Meet Tim. Here's his story. It illustrates how the four goals of misbehaviour can play out on the ladder of discouragement. Remember, each rung on the ladder is a deeper level of despair and is reflected by a deeper level of problematic behaviour. Susie, Tim's mum, picks up the story how her son chose to cope with his perceived inadequacy at age 7.
It was the summer school holidays and Timothy had been quite upset because he didn't want to go back to school. So he, had a few tantrums and couldn't work it out, or like why, what was the point? And this last week, Timothy was in the lounge and his brother and sister were sleeping. I heard this thud. I didn't sort of think anything of it at first, but then it happened again, a few seconds later. So I went to the lounge room and because I knew that Tim was in there, and I walked to the door and there's Timothy on the couch doing a handstand with his feet up against the wall. He literally pushed himself up like this, with his feet sort of going up in the handstand, I suppose, and then pushed his feet off the wall, pulled his hands straight out, and then his head hit the couch. And I just went running over there, yelling at him really, like, what are you doing? What are you doing? And I just grabbed him and said to him, my God, you are going to break your bloody neck. And he goes, I know. Real calm, just real calm, I know. And I said to him, well, if you know, why are you doing it? Don't do that. You're going to hurt yourself. And he said, no, I know that's going to happen. I don't want to be here. And I sort of naively said to him, well, if you don't want to be here, turn off the telly, come out into the kitchen, do something else. And he just kind of said, no, you don't understand. I don't want to be here. I want to die and I don't want to feel this way anymore. And if I'm dead, then I won't feel like this and then I don't have to go to school because I don't want to go to school. So if I die, there's no school. And I sort of said to him, it's going to be okay. Everything's actually all right. And he said, no, Mum, that you can't help me, Mum, because I'm never going to learn to read. After that, we rang the school to say, this has happened, we need to do something. So they said that what we need to do is get him talking to a psychologist and maybe have a psychological assessment, and it turned out that he was dyslexic. I find it interesting that teachers and, can I just say this one thing? Yeah. I find it interesting, I suppose not really a concern, but that they wouldn't know what work has to be put in for these kids between then and now.
I have an activity for you. If you're a teacher, I'd like you to pop your class list in front of you. If you're a school support officer, please use a list of students you regularly work with. Pause the video while you get these organised. Oh, also grab a blue and a red coloured pencil. Next, shade over each student's name in blue. If you think this child presents with fairly regular social and emotional needs, hey, they can still be very, very live wires, impulsive, and have times where you need to be their frontal lobe. Pause the video and take 5 minutes to colour in the blues. Feel free to get up, seek the opinions of others who know this child, and compare your thoughts. Okay, let's continue. This time, pick up your red coloured pencil and shade over all of the remaining names. Next to each name shaded in red, write the words attention seeker, or power seeker, or revenge seeker, or displays feelings of hopelessness. A few students will fluctuate between two of these styles. Write them both in. Pause me again while you take a few minutes to do this. What you've just done is to deepen your appreciation about the drivers behind this young person's behaviour. Next, I'd like you to split into small groups of 4, 5 or 6. Each group will need a sheet of butcher's paper, a texter, and someone to record your rich ideas. Pause me and organise your groups now. As a group, decide which of these motivations you'd like to tackle. Would you like to explore the attention seekers, or the power seekers, or revenge seekers, or those who display feelings of hopelessness? Be kind to each other and do your best to answer the 2 questions on screen. I'll give you a total of 15 minutes. Pause me for a while. Thank you for being kind to each other. I'm sure you've generated some great ideas. There are, of course, some proven approaches when it comes to working with attention seekers, power seekers, revenge seekers, or those who show displays of inadequacy. Let's share with each other. I'd like to begin with the group who explored attention seekers. Pause the video and take a few moments to explain the likely drivers behind an attention seeker to everyone. Next, could you share your ideas to work with attention seekers more effectively? Again, pause the video, restart when you're ready. Well done. Now let me add mine to the mix. Let's move to the group who explored power seekers, as this is a tough style to respond to. It takes great emotional intelligence, poise, a plan, and good backup. Pause me and explain the likely drivers behind power seekers. Share your thoughts with each other. Next, move to ideas to work more successfully with power seekers and share with everyone. Pause the video, restart when ready. And here are mine. Thirdly, could the group who explored revenge-based behaviours share their thoughts with everyone? Pause the video and take a few moments to explain the likely drivers. Next, move to ideas to work more successfully with revenge-based behaviours and share. Again, pause the video while you do this. These are mine that I've placed on screen. Finally, we turn to the group who discuss students who display feelings of inadequacy or hopelessness. Pause the video and explain the likely drivers behind this. Next, move to ideas to work more successfully with students who display feelings of inadequacy or hopelessness. Again, pause the video while you share your interventions. And here are mine. To wind up, here is your guide to work with kids and teens who show trickier behaviours. It's yours to take away and put into action. First up, we accept that all behaviour has a purpose. That behaviour is what human beings do to survive in the moment. That humans use behaviours that are often misguided or based on a faulty logic when overwhelmed. We've also learnt that emotion, behaviour and learning cannot be separated because emotion rules everything. When we accept behaviour and its drivers as a human vulnerability, we receive a wonderful freedom to work more effectively with young people. Okay, let's go. Always hypothesize about what's likely triggering your students' behaviour. Remember, emotion comes first and behaviour follows. In your own mind, separate those drivers, the emotion and the behaviour, from each other. Say to yourself, what's behind this? What else might be driving it? Is there a circuit breaker or an easy intervention I can draw on? Is it a case that they can't rather than they won't? Are they ready for this? Is it anxiety or are they feeling overwhelmed? Do they have the skills to handle this? Although emotion and behaviour are tightly linked, try to think about them separately. Name the emotions and link each to the tricky behaviour. Ask yourself whether this young person is developmentally younger than the chronological age. It may be a case that they can't meet expectations rather than won't. Developmentally, they may not be ready. Developmentally, their chronological, emotional, social, intellectual and academic ages may not be congruent. Assign an age for each of these criteria. A disparity in these ages is common in children and adolescents struggling to get along with authority figures, peers, learning and controlling their emotions. So often they are experiencing an internal battle and they have no idea what's raging. Deliberately avoid power battles, because once students sense you've entered their battle, you've lost. So often young people who have suffered disadvantage, neglect or trauma, they do the big talk and they play the big game. Try not to buy into this. You do not need to win in this moment. Instead, state, "Oh, I see you need help with," and then immediately sit with them and show them the way, possibly without eye contact, as it can sometimes heighten emotion. Once they're re-engaged, get up, move away. If you don't have to, then don't give it power. With young people who have learnt to battle, never ask them why in front of the class. Why? Questions invite long-winded, irrelevant, power-based answers. These students don't know it, but they are totally reliant on poised adults to diffuse situations for them. There's no point in challenging an educator who's composed, logical, gets on with the lesson and responds with brief, steady comments such as these. "Oh, I want you to learn this, so let's get on with the lesson. I'm happy to talk it through with you later, but not now. I like you too much to argue about this. No, this is the way it stays. This is how it's going to be. This is the moment where you need to leave it." Except that many of these young people have little internal structure yet. Their internal structure is years away from firming up. A good rule of thumb coined by Russell Barclay for young people with ADD, ADHD, ASD and executive functioning issues is to take about 30% off their chronological age. For example, when we take 30% off a 12-year-old in middle school, his age becomes 8. This provides a realistic snapshot of the age level they are working at. They rely, without knowing it, on clear, short and simple expectations. They need visible and consistent boundaries, and these must be applied with strength, sensitivity and composure. They are highly reliant on the 3 R's: routine, reliability and repetition. They are dependent on the continuing and supportive organisational structures that help them find success. They can't do it alone yet. Once we understand the 30% rule, empathy can replace annoyance. On this note, there are young people in our care who have trouble with sensory processing. That is, they struggle to organise information from their senses and mistake them. Some will also have challenges with a lesser known sense too. It's called interoception. Interoception skills help us to read our internal needs, what something feels or tastes like, let alone whether we're hungry or not, how it smells, how it tastes, whether you're sitting too close to me, whether I'm sitting too close to you, whether you feel lethargic or energetic, too hot, too cold, or what information should I take in, what information is important, what information can I let go. This makes self-regulation a genuine challenge. Vulnerable, disengaged young people will experience time out as more rejection. For these young people, we pull back on sending them out of our classroom. We appreciate that by consistently doing this, we inspire feelings of shame and disconnectedness, even revenge in them. And shame, well, we all know it's one of the trickiest feelings to deal with, and when not appreciated and handled well, can rapidly escalate into nastiness and revengeful behaviours. So what can you do? What you can do is think how the behaviours of students cause you to feel and use a sliding scale of 1 to 5. Number 1, I'm feeling mildly irritated. I can address this best by standing near him or her while I explain the lesson to the class. Number 2, I am irritated. I need to check his or her behaviour. I need to check on my own emotion too. I might sit with them and have a quiet word. I could suggest they take some time in our calm corner. Number 3, I must intervene now. There's urgency. I'll offer a break card or privately tell them what's best. Number 4, this is disruptive and it's annoying me and others. I need support so someone can take my class while I address this with him or her before they lose it. Number 5, he or she cannot regulate their emotions. They've lost it. I need backup now, and I'll think about my next move after I get this bit under control. When things get tense, take a deep breath, slow it down, and force yourself to use a language that is poised and respectful. There is an art to having successful private conversations with students. Here are a few tips. 1. Remind yourself they are a child and you are an adult. Use your adult composure to slow the pace down. Look, sound and be kind, as it will help you both to breathe and find your words. Less well-chosen words are most effective. Number 2, show that you like them. And if you don't, try harder. 3, some eye contact is important, but don't overdo it, because it can become intimidating. 4, physically don't get too close, as it can feel too threatening, too intense. Sit at an equal height or sit lower than your student. Try not to have a desk between you both. And rather than sitting face to face, sit side by side or angled towards each other. 5, it may be appropriate to offer a brief apology. You might say, "I'm sorry," or "I feel badly for you." It's astonishing what these types of statements can do. 6, when you need to challenge, be sure you also convey that you like them. Give an example of one of the strengths you admire about them. 7, warmly ask questions instead of looking as though you're interrogating, trying to get to the bottom of everything. Young adolescents rarely cooperate with adults who subject them to the 3rd degree. 8, give the student a clear picture of the behaviour that's tripping them up. If they don't know, they can't change it. Use your kindest intention to deliver this. Offer to help. Even though it's tough, don't stop trying to connect and build relationship. It is the trickier students who need to hear your private encouragement most often, because so often they feel overwhelmed or hopeless in a school environment. Here are some easy to use connectors. It's great to see you. Hey, it's great to see you doing. You've really improved in. That helps when you, "Oh, I know you can do this." Given the conflict that often bubbles away in their life, it's easy for them to feel unwanted and ready to overreact. We need to find words and ways to deliberately connect. If you must deliver a negative consequence, be kind as you do it. An ideal consequence is one that supports someone to repair the damage. You see, many of the young people we are talking about have a history of fighting, biting, and running. And then they're punished, feel shame and revengeful, burn the relationship, and move on only to repeat the same behaviours. Show them how to repair the damage they've caused, how to re-establish relationships. Teach them to use a soft voice to say that they're sorry, and how to be gentle in the face of tension. So many of our young people have missed out on being taught this valuable human skill set. Never stop listening to your intuition. Sometimes use a glint of humour in your voice. Sometimes gain their attention by using a matter-of-fact voice, telling them exactly what needs to be done. Charlie, work quietly, please. Sam, pop that in the bin, thanks. Another beaut trick to stop disruptive behaviour unravelling in the classroom is to keep the student responding to you, rather than allowing them to increasingly control the interaction. Maintain your eye contact with them. Stand near them as you teach and keep circulating around the room, moving past and checking in with them obliquely but frequently. Yes, some don't respond well to public praise. Always keep praise short, genuine and specific to the process, and do it privately if you must. Refrain from shooting off worrying emails to parents and caregivers later in the evening. Write what you need to write, but send it in the morning. Find ways to communicate with parents and caregivers rather than always communicating through the student. The weight of this will make some hypervigilant and overreactive. Do what you do well. Enlist the support of others so that you feel supported. Our trickiest students need caring, competent and available adults whose poise prevents them from being sucked into the student's chaotic, emotional whirlwind. It's different today. Students in schools expect real conversations and connections with educators. They demand to be heard and will not be easily manipulated by school policy that doesn't make sense or seems unfair to them. As teachers, we find ourselves in a situation where our responsibility and influence are much vaster than imparting curriculum. We are presented with multiple opportunities to have heartfelt conversations with young people, share insights from our world and explore new ways for them to navigate their rapidly expanding world more successfully. Remember too that while this generation of children and adolescents face some tricky situations that are unique, we've worked with many tricky kids for generations. The truth is that most of them grow into fine people. Some even become fine educators and wonderful principals. Our fight isn't with the child. More to the point, it's within ourselves. Young people with the more complicated emotions and behaviours have usually had a lot of inconsistency in their lives. What they need is someone who can be pleasantly consistent, someone who can call it, remain open-hearted, warm, and keep them connected. We can choose to be respectful even when students act in disrespectful ways. And don't ever assume that dealing with another person's behaviour is easy. We must be real about all that needs to come together to change the behaviour of another. There are no silver bullet solutions. These are for the movies.